All right, so I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. Instead of demoing the model, I'm going to more explain how to use it. There are a bunch of things on this model that are a little bit more complicated that might take some explanation to learn how to use. And I'm also going to start off in a little bit of a weird place here in Unity, but I think this part is extremely important, especially for those of you running around in public with my models. It's no secret that there's a lot of stuff on it, and I really don't recommend running around all the time with all of the stuff enabled. So in any case, one of the first things you'll be greeted with when you turn on, or rather when you import my model, is this welcome window. It'll pop up and tell you what you're missing if you are missing anything. And I think one of the very cool things about this is you can just hit fix and it do it for me on any one of these, and it's going to go ahead and fix the dependency for you. And you can see Final IK was just installed. Same with Poyomi Tune, do it for me. It's going to download it from the repo. And Poyomi Tune has been installed for you. And the same thing with the manager. You can hit fix here, but honestly, it takes a long time to fix it with the editor script. So I just recommend going into your creator companion, finding Avatars 3.0 manager, and then just hitting the plus button. It's just a lot faster. And you should see some green check marks here, and you can just hit open scene to go ahead and open the scene for the model. Now on to, I think, one of my favorite features of the model, and that's the Avatar Systems installer. So you can go to Cam at the top here, and then Avatar Creator. And it's going to open up with this window here. You can dock this wherever you want. I like to put it here. And this is actually going to be a window for you to generate models. You can generate versions of the models. Nothing is static. You don't have to stick with the prefabs that I give you. You can pick the features that you want to have on every install of your model. And I definitely recommend doing this to keep your performance impact on a general lobby down to a minimum. Because like I said, all of these features are things that you really don't need to have on all the time. But for me, I'm going to set up the base model. So with the base model is pretty much all the appearance options. Everything is labeled in its own category. It's going to be the touch menu. We're going to do the step effects. That's your little foot particles. Third person camera. It's completely free in terms of performance for remote users and memory cost. I'm going to use the bayonet. The bayonet's kind of important to the aesthetic of the model, to be honest. Butterfly knife. Everyone likes the butterfly knife. And that's going to be it for like a base version of the model that still performs relatively decently. If you're really looking for performance, I have the good performance models. I definitely recommend using those probably most of the time because I think they look the exact same as the full version model. But anyways, you could just hit create avatar here, and then just hit install. And once it's installed, you can see it in the scene here. Now, I definitely recommend going to your Gizmos section and dragging the Gizmo size down because if you have it at default, you're not really going to be able to see much of the model. So just drag that down. And then here is actually where you can adjust the default body proportions. You can change the chest size, the waist size, and the arm size. What this is going to do is change the proportions for you when you upload the model, and it's going to also set the default values of the proportion sliders to whatever you select here. You can go ahead and select this what you want. And I do not recommend, if you want to make the models smaller, do not go click on the model and scale it like this. Don't do that. This will break features on the model. Some features are unfortunately dependent on scale and size and position. So what I recommend doing is I've actually built the scaling tool directly into the creator. So you can just scale it like this. It's going to adjust the viewpoint. It's going to adjust all of the prefabs and everything for you automatically. So please do this instead of scaling the model directly, just so you don't break anything. And then also in this modify avatar section here, you can also install and uninstall features on the fly. So if I wanted the bow here on here, say I misclicked on the create avatar or something like that, I can just hit install, then hit yep. And it's going to merge the bow onto the model just with one click like that. So you can add and remove features live on the model as you want. So you make a change to like one of the outfits or you add clothes or something of a kind. You can just go ahead and install and remove things as you want, no problem. So lastly, I want to show you how to change the color of the quest model. I recorded this in advance, but I forgot to record a transition. So this is the transition. It's going to be a little bit of a cut. So to change the color, what you can do is you can go up to cam and then quest texture changer. And it might take a second for it to open because it's got to load textures. And now that it's open, you can drag and drop the prefab of the model that you want to change. So say I want to change this one. I can take this and drag it into the input model for preview. And it should update here. And you can change the background color of the model, or the base color, from default to dark, to white. And the second that you change this color, it'll update and you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the white, here's the dark, and then the default. Again, back to here. So there you go. You can change the colors to whatever you want. I know a lot of people seem to like the dark with red. I think that looks pretty decent. And don't worry about the hair and the eyes. You can change those in game as you want. But anyway, if you want to save this, so that way you can upload this version, you just hit save texture here. It might take a second to save it, but it's going to generate a new texture and it'll ping it for you so you know where it is. You can go ahead and close this out and you have your texture. You can edit it however you want. So now we're going to get into the game and I'm going to show you how to use some of the features here. I think they're really cool. They are really intuitive once you know how to use them. And yeah, I'm going to do that now. All right, here we are in game. So first of all, I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to go into the touch menu first. So you can go into your menu here and then hit the touch menu toggle. And then what you can do, you can see nothing is happening. What you need to do is you need to make a finger gun with either hand, and then you can swipe down. And you'll notice the menu appears in front of you. Now on the left, you have your controls. So you can see your model here, and you click these buttons, and it will rotate around for you. And then on the right, you have all of your toggles, and you have nice little sound effects that come with it. The menu is super responsive, easy to use. And to toggle something, you just hover your finger over it. And once it's done loading, you can see it toggles off here. You can see I have no glasses. I can go into the hair and change the long hair to the short hair. And you can see I have a nice little dissolve that will come up to toggle it. Upper body, lower body, tops. I can switch to the tube top here. And you can see it's a different outfit entirely. And I can go to the textures here and change to the dark texture set or the light texture set and the mixed texture set, which is the default. So you can see you can change your proportions. You can go to chest, change the size here. You can see it changing size. I can go to the hips, do the exact same thing just by pointing my finger and sliding the slider. Same thing with the arms. So in the colors section, you also have main color, eye color, and rainbow. Rainbow will just continuously cycle through the colors. But if I want to change the main color from here, all I have to do is stick my finger onto here and slide the slider, and it's going to go ahead and change colors. And also you can do allow others. This will allow other people to interact with the menu. If it's gray, they cannot. If it's white, they can. What's really important to note about this system is it's attached to your head. And your head isn't going to be in the same spot for everybody all the time. So what you need to do, if you want to make sure other people can interact with your menu flawlessly, you need to make sure your head is stationary when you flick your wrist. And then everyone will see it mostly in the same spot. Their fingers might be a little off when they're pressing the buttons, but it won't be that noticeable. And just like you saw me do earlier, I can make a finger gun with either hand and then flick up and the menu is going to disappear. All right, I'm going to show off the butterfly knife now. You can just turn on the butterfly knife here and it's going to show up in your hand. What you can do is you can point your finger and then flick your wrist back and it's going to go to the back of your hand. And then you need to flick your wrist forward again to send it back to a normal grip. And then you can also flick your wrist to the side to do a quick draw, which is also a nice little tech if you don't want to spend the time to flick your wrist back. And then you can also send it to your other hand by opening your right hand and flicking your wrist to the left. And you can send it back and forth like this. All of the techs are the exact same, just like you'd expect it. And then you can perform aerials by opening the knife first, opening your hand and flicking your wrist up, just like that. And you can throw it to your other hand by flicking your wrist to the direction of the opposite hand. So it doesn't matter. You just have to make sure you're flicking it to the same direction as the other hand. It can be backwards. It can be forwards like we had it before, down, etc., etc. And then you can do your chaplains, which is your spinning. So you can make a finger gun here and spin it around your finger. And I've made the gesture look like a finger gun so it makes sense. So you can spin it around on your finger with finger gun, and you can spin around on your thumb with thumbs up. I've also made the gesture look like a thumbs up so that way you don't get confused, and it's very intuitive. So you can flip it around your finger and then your thumb and then back to your finger, and you can grab it, flick it around, have some fun with it, do some aerials, and just mess around with it really. It's nice for
It's nice for a little ADHD toy, fun. So you can just put it away like that, and then toggle it off in the menu. All right, so now I'm going to show off the bow. So the bow is a system that's going to need a little bit more space here. So I'm just going to look in this direction here. And you can hit enable, and the bow is going to pop up in your hand. You can hear it has some nice audio effects that play with it. You can see it in the mirror here. And then to grab the string, you just need to grab it. It's a fizz bone, so you grab it as if it was a fizz bone. And you can pull it back. You can see the audio changes, and all the animations play. The cams rotate, the arms bend. All this stuff looks really cool. So you can see this line that comes out of the arrow. That's telling me where it's going to land. So if I just let go of the string, it's going to go exactly where that hammer is going. You can turn this off. I personally don't really like it, but it was a requested feature by my Discord, so I went ahead and added it. And you can see the arrows stick in the ground, just like you'd expect them to, out of a bow, which is really cool. And then you also have color change. You can change the color of it. It's also pretty neat. And you have this game feature. This is a really fun little feature that I added that adds a little bit more interest to the bow. All right, we can play the infinite game first. And when you open the menu, it's going to open, and this is where you can place it. It'll follow your head. What you can do is you can hit this button here. It says place. You need to stand still and not rotate your head. This is so that way the position syncs up with other players. Now the game starts. Now that we're playing infinite, the targets will spawn infinitely. There's no timer, and there's no high score. So you can just shoot the targets just like you would expect, and they break and move around randomly between preset points. A little fun game. And you can toggle it off here, and we can play the timed mode. The timed mode will keep track of your score and keep track of your high score. High score is at the top, your score is at the bottom, and you can see this timer is running down. Once that timer runs down, the score will stop, the game will stop, and then it will record your high score. If you got higher, obviously your high score will change. If you didn't, obviously it won't. So you can just try and shoot as many targets as you can in this time. And you can play with your friends, try to challenge them, see if you can beat them. And yeah, that's how the bow game works, and that is how the bow works. It's pretty cool. I'm really happy with it. You can turn off the audio if you find it annoying. Sometimes if you have a bunch of tinnies in a room, the audio can get kind of annoying. But that's why that's in there. So now we're going to go over the RC car. The RC car is a fun little one. It's fully synced, meaning that other players will see it in the exact same spot that you do, which is really neat. So you can go ahead and enable it here, and you'll notice that it follows your head. You can place it wherever you like, and then hit the pickup button, and it's going to go ahead and drop it. And if you want to move it at any time to force it to you, you just hit the pickup button again, and it's going to go ahead and place like this. So I'm going to move a little bit farther away so you can see it. And the controls are very intuitive. You can go into the VR controls menu if you are in VR. If you're on desktop, you can go into the desktop controls menu. And then you see this menu. It says open one puppet and squeeze the opposite trigger to move. And then turn, use on left hand, and then turn, use on right hand. So what you want to do if you're right-handed, what I do is open the menu on the left hand, the turning menu. You can see it's turning. And then what you do is you make a fist and you squeeze the trigger. If you're on Oculus, it'll be your middle finger trigger. If you are on Index, it's going to be your main trigger squeeze. And I believe if you're on the Vive wands, it's the same trigger. I don't have Vive wands, unfortunately, but that's what I've been told. So what you can do is you can make a fist, squeeze your trigger, and it's going to go forward. And you can just turn here. And the more you squeeze the trigger, the faster it's going to go. And then it's not exactly like a real drift car. You don't have to counter steer or anything like that, but you can just have fun with it, turn around, and have a good time, basically. If you want to drive it on the other hand, of course, you can go into the menu here into VR controls, open this menu on the right hand, and then squeeze your left trigger to move instead of your right trigger. And you also have the speed multiplier here where you can change the speed. Some worlds have really weird friction, so you have to turn the speed way down in order to get the car feeling good. So again, just squeeze the trigger. Now we're going really slow. Again, some worlds this might be the required speed in order for it to feel good. But in any case, this is how you drive it on VR. And I'm going to cut to desktop for you to see how to drive it in desktop.
Okay, so the desktop controls are very intuitive. You can just go into the desktop controls menu, and you can find these options here. Drive, speed multiplier, camera, and flip. Drive is exactly what you think it would be. where up arrow is forward, right arrow is right, left arrow is left, and back arrow is reverse. Now, obviously this is kind of hard to see because I can't turn my camera, but that's what the camera option is for. Now that I press the camera option, this will take control of my screen and I can drive the car in first person. And if I somehow flip the car over, there is also a flip option here that will reset your position. And then again, we have our speed multiplier to slow ourselves down if we think we're going too fast, or speed ourselves up if we want to go a little faster.
Then we can move on to, we'll just move to extras here. Now we have step effects. You can see that I have little footstep particles here. I like this. It's really minimal. But if you want the shockwave with it, you can have that too. It looks pretty cool. And it's going to work based off of wherever your toe hits, not your heel. Heel support might come in later, but for right now, it's just toes. And what you can do is say your play space up a little bit. All of a sudden, you can't press the ground anymore. You can just go into the floor height option here and move the floor height up until you see your feet spawning particles. And then you can just hit the trigger and you're good to go. Now you can step again and everything is fine. Now we can go back to the toys menu and we can go to the bayonet here. Now with the bayonet, it's grab based. So if I look at the bayonet here and get my hand relatively close to it, you can kind of see that it lights up here. You can see that. And whenever it lights up, all you need to do is make a fist and grab it and it'll come into your hand. And if you want to send it to the other hand, you just make a fist with your left hand and then let go of your right hand and it's going to go ahead and send it. And you can sheath it by doing the exact same thing as before, where you can hover it over your leg. Once it turns white, the outline, you can just open your hand and it's going to go ahead and let go. Now we can go into the GPU particle section. What you can do is you just make a fist and you'll see nothing's happening. What you need to do is you need to make a fist and squeeze one of the triggers and you can see the particles moving towards that hand. You can do the same thing with the other hand and the particles will move to the other hand. And then you can do both and the particles will come in between them. And what you can do is open hand will send the particles away from the hand that is open. So if I open my hand, it's going to fly away to the other hand and vice versa. If I open both hands and move my hands around, you can see it moving just like that. So then I can just, again, squeeze both hands. It's going to come together pretty slowly here. But now you can send it between your hands. You can send it back and forth. You can do all kinds of things. It's just really fun to play with, spin it around, do all this stuff.
So that's going to do it for the explanation on how to use some of the features on the model. If you have any more questions, feel free to join the Discord and ask, but I really hope that I described them well enough for you to get an understanding of how to use the model.